You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
All right, let's try this again because I screwed up the last time. Nick Guardione.
Guardione.
So we talked about your last name twice already.
Right.
And it doesn't stand for guardian.
It doesn't.
But it sounds pretty dope.
It's very Guardian-esque.
And you were just telling me about, look at this. Look at this. I was already doing this. I'm going to do this whole podcast.
That's fine.
You were just telling me about your logo for your knife making.
Yeah. So the way you spell my last name is G-U-A-R-D, guard, I, letter I, and then O-N-E, one. So I took that pretty literally. So Guardian, I had a little shield, and then there's an eyeball in it for the letter I, and then it's a vertical slit for the letter one. So it's basically my last name if you took it as literally as possible and put it into a logo. But it looks pretty sick. It looks like a medieval sort of stamp. It's just a shield. I'll show you a picture of it in a bit. But it's just a shield with an eye with a little vertical slit. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how long have you been making knives, and what kind of got you into that? Because I'll be honest with you, I love knives. We were just talking about that a minute ago. And I went through this phase where I was like, you know what, I need to buy a forge. I even have a coil.
Induction coil?
No, it's a spring off of a car. I got it at the dump. I was going to cut it and try making knives out of it.
Yeah, that's good
But
stuff.
it's too damn hot outside, man. So what got you into it, and what kind of, made you, I guess, pursue it more than what I did?
Well, so I moved in with my girlfriend early college. We're not together anymore, but I moved in with her, and my dad had just passed away, and this will kind of lead into my fitness journey as well too. Okay. But I just needed outlets, and we had this attached garage, and I was doing nothing with it, and I just had a couple tools to dink around with my car in there, and at the time I was doing parkour.
Okay.
180-pound me, 6'6".
Okay, I was gonna say because this wasn't at this size.
No, I was a twig. Well,
6'6", 6'6", 180.
I was a twig. So
I just got a visual.
I did cross country in middle school and high school.
Okay.
So I was a runner. I was never strong. But I had this garage, and I was always inspired to kind of fix stuff. I always loved tinkering with stuff. My mom would buy me Christmas presents to just take apart and mess with as a kid. So I've always had that sort of mechanical aptitude ever since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And so on one of these running cross-country parkouring excavations that I would take a couple times a week, just around the apartment complex where I live, I found this big sheet of metal. It was it was crap steel, but it was like a crown for a roof. But it was probably 3/8 thick steel, just crap steel that they would weld onto a roof. There was a big church getting remodeled a couple blocks away, and I found this big old sheet of steel. It was probably 2 foot by 4 foot long, big, 3/8 thick. And I drug it home because I thought it was neat. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this thing? It's massive. And I just make a shield. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of silly.
Well, that's what we typically do as dudes, right? We either are interested in shields or swords when we have something like that.
Exactly. So I had this big piece of metal in my garage, and it was actually a really weird coincidence because my garage neighbor right next door to me in this apartment complex was getting rid of a workbench right at the same time. It was really weird. The next day, he had this stuff. He was trying to pull it to the dumpster. I was like, dude, I'll take that. It was, maybe probably 6 foot wide, 3 foot deep, 2 foot deep workbench with a couple, dinky drawers in it. I still have it to this day. And he was dragging it to the dumpster. I was like, man, I'll take that. Heck yeah, workbench for my cool new garage. Sweet. So we drug it in there. He gave it to me for free. It was the day after I had this big piece of steel and I popped it down on the workbench, and I was like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
I don't have any tools to work it. I've got wrenches to work on my car. I've got screwdrivers,
It's a whole different tool set, yeah.
A whole new world. And I was like, I want to try making a knife because that's the cool thing to do. You know what I mean? I've got this big piece of steel. Let's make something out of it. So went on Amazon, got an angle grinder, got some files, and went to town, made a couple knives for me and my uncle, and they were horrible knives. Like they looked pretty cool. I can show you some pictures later. They looked cool. I spent a lot of time working on them. I like hand filed the bevels in.
Oh, really?
Which takes forever.
Yeah,
I don't know if
that's a lot of work.
If you ever tried to file metal, but
I'm from the country, so we've all taken ag, and that was part of it. We were all
goodness.
making knives and stuff on with a rasp, trying to use a rasp, which wasn't the right thing to use. We should have been using file, but
yeah. So I ended up making this like jig that held the file to hold it at an exact angle, so I wasn't like rocking it and stuff. And spent probably 2 days just like filing these bevels in this super thick metal that was just garbage. And I made like a little charcoal forge out of a bucket and some refractory cement and sand.
Really?
And you put charcoal in it and like a leaf blower in the side to get it hot enough to heat treat the steel.
Were you getting all this info online, or who was teaching you?
I have a degree.
School,
so I have a degree in mechanical engineering.
Okay.
I was working on it at the time that I found this is like probably 2015 around that time. And so I kind of knew like the metallurgy of heat treating steel and going through the process. So I just kind of looked on YouTube, like cheap forges, cheap ways to heat treat the steel properly. And I didn't know that it was the wrong kind of steel. I didn't know about like how to test if it was a high carbon steel or whatever yet. So I ended up making this like a big metal bucket that I lined with refractory cement, put a pipe through the side for my leaf blower, and I ended up melting one of the blades because it got so hot that it melted part of it off. But I thought it looked really cool, so I put the handles on it later anyway and finished it. It was really cool. But so that just became something on its own. I started making like jewelry and all kinds of stuff, and I kept getting tools and spending more time in the garage, and it sort of became this intellectual output at the same time as my physical journey, my fitness journey was starting, and it was perfect. So I was kind of
what I'd imagine 6'6", 180. You're as you were telling me about it, I was thinking, man, he's probably built perfect for parkour because you're probably getting good jumps and leverage and stuff like that. So
I could run at a wall, damn near 2 stories tall and be able to get a finger up on it and grab with the other hand and pull myself up. Like
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm actually really sad because I never got any videos of me doing it or any pictures because I was always like in high school I would do it. At my high school, I lived a mile away. I would do my run to the school, and then I would climb. It was like this crazy multi-tiered, like 6-story building, but it had like these perfect tiers.
Oh, really?
Of like 10-foot drops. So like it was like the perfect little parkour playground where I would go back behind the school where the pool was. There's this perfect little metal awning that you could just barely grab onto and get up there, and that was the only way to get on top of the school. And then you would jump from tier to tier, and then you get to this big ornate front facade that the school had. It was big glass dome, big glass like pyramid at the front with a big clock.
This is definitely not in South Central Texas, because what you're describing it is not what we have down here.
So it was suburban Houston.
Okay,
Yep.
really?
Yeah, League City. Shout out to my Clear Spring friends. But so it was this probably 100-foot tall like facade. It was just a kind of a tower that they had, and it had perfect little 10-foot tiers going all the way to the top, and I could just sit up there at night and just listen to music on my little iPod Touch with the little wheel.
Yeah.
And it was a great time. But back to the knife thing. So it turned from just making knives for me because I thought they were cool, to trying to sell them, trying to make some money. And it ended up turning into a whole business.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it went from making knives for myself and my uncle and some friends. A couple people noticed how cool they were. They're like, "Hey, I'd buy one of those if you want to sell." And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to turn my my little meditation in the garage
creative outlet.
Yeah, creative outlet into something for money. And then I got more tools. The process got easier. The product got better and better. And then I had so many people wanting something. Like, hey, can you make this for my boyfriend? Hey, can you make a hunting knife for my dad? Whatever. I was like, okay, it's going to happen. And then I was working as a server, and I kind of started selling some stuff. It was another weird, perfectly timed coincidence in my life where I started selling small skinning knives and neck knives. And
are we talking full tang here, man?
oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, because you always got to go full tang now.
Full tang.
So if people listening, you don't know what full tang is, look it up and then quit buying the other knife.
Yeah, and handmade is best. Like,
yeah.
I'm always, if you can afford it, support local craftsmen. It's quality work almost all the time, made for you, made with love by someone who really cares, and by someone who wants to do this as a living. It's not stamped out of a sheet of steel from China, heat treated in a bath with 1,000 other knives of the same exact thing. Like, if you can't afford it, because it is pricey, because it's one person basically most of the time.
It's hours of work.
Hours and hours and hours of work on one knife. I mean, imagine taking a chunk of steel, forming it, heat treating it, and then hand sanding it to a mirror finish.
Yeah.
Going through the grits to a mirror finish. It takes a long time. But if you can afford it, it's a forever piece. You know what I mean? Like, it's something that you can pass down through your family. It's something that will last forever if you take care of it right.
Yeah.
So, right around Rona, when Rona shut everything down, I was working as a server. I was just starting to sell some knives. It was maybe like a handful at a time. Nothing crazy, like a couple $100 a month of just money. And it was really cool.
Was it hard for you to part with them? I mean, there's got to be some.
Yeah, for sure.
There's things that I buy and like people say, hey, well, you need to sell. You've got too many XYZs. You need to sell them. And it's kind of like I couldn't imagine if I had made them. I
absolutely.
probably wouldn't sell anything.
Yeah. No, there's a couple knives that to this day are like, it breaks my heart because they were so perfect and so beautiful that like, I'm like, if I ever have the money, I would offer to buy them back one day because they were just so good. And like, I was just so proud of them. And like, I sent them away and it was like sending my little child away, but like weeks of work. And
I don't know if you ever heard this story, but I was watching a thing on, what was his name? I'm going to tell a story and I can't even remember his name. Tom Petty. And it reminds me of that because Stevie Nicks asked him to write her a song. Or asked him to write her a song. And so he wrote, I forget what song it was. Anyway, he wrote her a song, gave it to her, and then he said, you know what? I need to have that song back. And she said, why? And he's like, it's too good. I can't give it to you. And he ended up recording it himself. So. But yeah, same sort of concept. But you have something that you really love, and it's kind of like, man, I made it for somebody. But I put so much in there, and to do something and produce something that sure you had an expectation for, but then when you exceeded that expectation, it's kind of like now I gotta give it to somebody because you paid for it.
Yep.
Oh, I couldn't imagine.
You get used to it, and it wasn't as bad when you do like a batch of 20 knives and sell them all, or like fulfill an order of 20 knives and they're all pretty nice. But like those one-off knives that you sat down with the customer and they're like, yeah, I want this type of wood because it means this, and I want this color bolster and Damascus that looks like this and this kind of finish and like this kind of shape, and like I don't know, when you nail it and you only can enjoy it for a couple hours before you pack it up and send it away, it kind of hurts for sure.
I bet. I couldn't imagine.
For sure. But anyway, so back to the timeline. So right when Rona hit, I was working as a server at Topgolf.
Here in town?
Yeah, here in town, right on 1604. And so they shut down and they were closed for a while. And so how am I going to make money? Like rent still due.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I still have 2 weeks to make rent. So started cranking on the knives, popping them out. People were buying them like crazy.
How are you getting to people as far as
Instagram? I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything but word of mouth on Instagram. And people were reaching out to me asking for pics, for knives, for neck knives, for jewelry, anything that they could. And I started to support myself with just that. And so then I was left with this, okay, do I starve, or do I sort of bastardize this outlet hobby into something that makes me money? And I went that way. So I started doing batches of 20 or 30 picks at a time. You got one?
Yeah.
How are you liking it, by the way?
You know what? I love it. And when people, just so people know, this pick is, it's what, maybe 6 inches long? Mm-hmm. And it's made of something in particular. And I looked it up the other day. I couldn't remember what the material was. What was the material?
It's called G10.
G10.
Yeah.
So it's very strong for like a composite or something, isn't it? It's like a plastic.
It's basically like an upgraded fiberglass, sort of.
Okay.
That's how I kind of describe it to people. It's not quite on the level of carbon fiber, but it's an upgraded fiberglass. It's one of the best insulators in the world. Like, you could shove it into an outlet, you wouldn't get electrocuted. It's one of the best insulators in the world. But it's very strong, and it can hold a point like nobody's business.
Yeah, it's very sharp. The one that I bought from you, when I saw you were selling them, I think you were raising funds for a meet or something. And so I purchased one, and I looked it up online. I get weird, man, right? So, like, I see something and I gotta have it.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it is, but I've gotta have it.
Yeah, that's exactly how you describe it to me too.
And so I ordered one, and when I got it, I was kind of like, my wife was like, "What the hell is that? You know, what do you need that for?" Yeah. And she had no clue what it was, because I barely knew what it was for. I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, okay. I think we called it a sticky pokey thing or something at one point. And so I've got it hanging next to a few things that I have hanging for security in my room. And there's been a couple times where I'm like, man, I need to take this thing with me. And not to get all crazy. I mean, we can get crazy, but people are wild, man. Yeah. Times are wild. You know, even down south around where my sister lives, she's got a ranch, and there's illegals all the time. There's people around all the time. You're seeing people hurting. There's a lot less respect for other people than what there used to be. Hopefully that changes. But right now, the trajectory that we're on, it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. Yeah. So I've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to carry my gun more often. You know, I've always carried it, but now I really always carry it. Yeah. And there's some places where you go and like I take my knife with me, you know, I'll put it here on my shirt, or you know, hook it on my shorts or my pants or whatever. And then there's sometimes where it's like, you know, I've talked to people before about kind of like concealed carry and things like that. And there's some people that I know that are hardcore, man. They're like, I will not go if I can't take my gun. You know, if I can't go to a movie, I'm not going to the movie. You know, if I can't go to this building, I'm not going there. Yeah. I'm a lot less like that, in the sense that it's like, oh, I guess I'll go, but, you know, I'm just not taking anything with me. Yeah. And now that I have that, the pick, you know, look, man, I'm a fat, out of shape old guy. You know, if I get into a pickle, I want to have the best advantage possible. Right. And even if it's just the pick, you know, I'd love to have a knife, I'd love to have a gun, I'd love to have all those things with me. Yeah. But if I'm somewhere that I want to go, or that my wife wants to go, and I know I can't take something with me in there, you know, granted, maybe I shouldn't be taking the pick either, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's something, you know, it's equivalent to wearing a belt with a big buckle. It's, you know, maybe some steel toe boots, exactly, something like that. But it's also a peace of mind knowing that I have something. Yeah. You know, if there's multiple people or something happens, you know, I'm not defenseless. You know, exactly. Granted, you have your body, but at the same time, it's nice to have something where hopefully somebody will see it and go, oh, you know, I don't want to mess with this guy. It's kind of a harder target. You know, let me move on to somebody else or somewhere else, and then you can call for help or something. But it's important to have things with you, you know, even if it's your keys or whatever, you know, but having that thing, it's kind of like, my wife's like, what would you do with that? And it's like, you know, even not to get grizzly or anything like that, but it's like knowing where to use it, you know, what parts of the body, where you want to use it, because, you know, if I poke somebody in the arm, they're probably going to be just pissed enough to beat the shit out of me, right? Yeah. So it's like knowing where to use these kinds of things, right. Even with a knife or even with a gun for that matter. You know, I hate to say it, but, you know, people are a lot less respectful of each other. And so it's important to have something with you that you can defend yourself. You know, there's times we travel and, you know, we don't have kids, So there's times where we'll go places and it'll be late at night. We'll go to the valley or we'll be downtown or we'll be somewhere and it's we need to get gas, and I tell you what, man, when I'm stopping for gas downtown or in the valley or, it's 12:30 at night, I definitely want something. I may not need it. God forbid I would need it, but it's nice to have something. Yeah. So that pick's been the shit, man. I really enjoy it.
And for people who don't know, the pick, it's made out of G10 instead of metal for a reason. Mm-hmm. So the G10 material is not magnetic at all. So, and the sheath that I make it in and the necklace is usually how people carry it, but none of it has any metal at all. So you can bring it into concerts that metal detect. You can bring it into airports, put it in your carry-on, wear it on your person, bring it into courthouses. I originally made it so that it's the base level of defense. If you have nothing else, at least you have something that you can carry with you at all times, no matter where you're going, no matter what level of security that you're going through, you'll have something to defend yourself with.
Sure.
Any type of self-defense sort of multiplier of your body is an advantage.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I built it. I originally had them as hair picks. I made one for myself as a hair pick.
I think I remember seeing a picture and it was beautiful.
Yeah. So
beautiful in your
hair. They were all kind of, but they're originally made to be hair picks, and it kind of caught on in like the women's self-defense world as like a hair pick, something they can defend themselves with at any point in time, because you always need someone to kind of hold your hair up. So that's kind of where it started. And it became something that, guys are like, hey, I want one of those. Like, I need something to carry at all times.
Yeah.
I mean, do you have pocket sheaths? I was like, yeah, but they're kind of long. And they're like, well, you make neck knives, so can you make me like a neck sheath? And I was like, okay. And everybody was eating those up. So
yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's a great idea to something just to supplement what else you have.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even with a gun, there's always a possibility of running out of ammo or dropping it or losing it, in a fight. So to be able to have that backup piece, and they're beautiful. I mean, they are really nice. The little, I guess the way you form it, I don't know how you do that, but it almost looks bamboo-ish.
Yeah. So the original material that I made them out of, it was G10, but it was like a tan color G10. And so I got inspired because I was going through like a Japanese kick, and Japanese art is
who doesn't go through a Japanese
for real,
kick?
Yeah. But there's a lot of paintings of Japanese women with a piece of bamboo holding their hair up, and I was like, okay, that'd be really cool to try and make this piece of G10 a defense tool that also is beautiful and looks like a piece of bamboo. So I had the brown G10. I made one for a couple friends, and they really liked it. And then I couldn't find any more, tan G10. And so I just bought a bunch of black, and people loved it. It ended up being a little bit more tactical, but I kind of kept the bamboo styling because it was actually really good for grip.
Sure.
I would basically measure my own fingers on the pick before I carved them, so that when you're holding onto
so that's carved. It's not molded.
No. I cut them out of a sheet.
That's awesome, man.
So I cut them out of a sheet into basically like a square tube, extrusion, and then I round them, and then I mark. They're all the same gap between the.
Oh, Nick's hand.
Yeah.
So good luck, ladies.
They're all the same, but it helps a lot. So, and then I have a big belt grinder that I made when I was in college. It's like a 2-inch wide belt. 72 inches long. It goes.
Holy crap!
I made it out of a treadmill motor and some other welded parts that I made together. And so it's this big belt, but on one of the wheels that it rolls over, it's a very tight angle, so you can
really work those.
You can really work those scallops into the pick.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you still selling knives and picks?
I'm not. So after the hand incident.
Right. Well, let's just dive into the hand incident, man.
Okay. So
go ahead and hold your hand up to this lady right here so people can see that Franken fist.
So I wasn't even working on knives. I've been doing knife making for 7 years now. Mm-hmm. about 2 or 3 of those have been as my sole source of income. About 3 months ago, April the 1st, everybody thought it was an April Fool's joke. I had just gotten home the day before from Texas Strongest Man, placing third.
Was that the one down in the valley?
No, that was in Houston.
Okay.
Yep. Feeling good, third place, having a great couple weeks with my buddies, competing hard. Had a great performance at Beerstone 2 weeks before that. Barely missed my pro card by half a point, whatever it was.
So you're on the edge, man.
On the edge, ready to make that next step. Feeling good, but I'm exhausted. I just gotten home from Texas Strongest Man the day before, and I'm just in the garage. I don't want to do anything too serious, and I don't want to get dirty or dusty, and so I'm just making a stand for my sandblasting cabinet to bring it up off the workbench. I was going to put it on a big stand and put some wheels on it so I could roll it around and store stuff underneath it and that kind of thing. And so I was just cutting these big pieces of wood in a bandsaw. So it's just a little worktop bandsaw, maybe like a foot or two tall. But it's always bolted to my workbench so I can push metal through and cut the shape of blades out of steel. Excuse me. And but these pieces of wood were just a bit too long. I had this cabinet full of all my chemicals kind of right next to it, a couple feet away at the end of the workbench. And so, I need to get this wood cut, so I unbolted the bandsaw from the table and turned it so that I could get these long pieces of wood through. And
bad move.
Bad move. so because it's always bolted down, I don't think about the fact that it can move now.
Sure.
And so I'm cutting these pieces down, and I'm putting them to the side and going back and cutting pieces down, and without me noticing, it's slowly vibrating its way to the edge of the workbench. And on the last piece, it falls, and it's locked on, turned on, so I can just go back and forth with these pieces of wood. And I didn't notice. Like, I really think that it was my lack of awareness was because I had competed so hard the past few weeks. I was totally out of it. I had no adrenaline left. I had no snap left. And
well, even mentally, if you're cutting boards, I mean, if you're that exhausted and just physically tired, you're going to zone out because it's a repetitive
just doing monotonous
movement.
tasks. Yeah, absolutely. And so it falls on me, and I don't realize that it's the blade that's on my hand, and it's cutting through my hand as it's laying on me. And I just think, a piece of equipment has fallen on me. I didn't realize that it was the bandsaw because it's always bolted down. It's not even a twinkle in my eye, that it's even possible. And so I push it off of me, not knowing that I'm pushing my hand further into the blade. And then I put it back on the workbench and turn it off. And I look down, and there's blood pouring down. I'm like,
How did you not cut your hand off?
I really don't know. I felt it hit the bone, like the little tiny blades skipping each finger bone as it was coming down and cutting me.
You're gonna make me pass out.
Well, you can see on the X-ray when we were in the hospital, you could see a little groove in the bone from where it was. It was on its way to cut my hand off. 100%. So it ends up severing every single extensor tendon in the back of my hand.
And what do those do?
Those open your fingers up.
Open.
So if you have a closed fist and you want to go to an open palm, that's your extensors pulling your fingers open.
Okay.
And I couldn't do that. So I put the bandsaw back on the workbench, and with my hand that I had just cut open, I reached for a towel to stop the bleeding because that's all that I had assumed had happened. But I couldn't open my hand. My hand just sort of flopped against the workbench as I was trying to grab a towel. And I was like, okay, we're going to the hospital tonight. Got it.
Were you alone at the house, or was somebody?
I was alone in the garage,
Okay.
But my girlfriend was in the apartment.
Okay.
So, and I have a video of it. I don't know if anybody wants to go look at it. It's on my Instagram at Nick Guardione, EEOWN. If you want to go watch it, it's not too gory, but if you swipe, you will see the inside of my hand. So fair warning.
I think I saw a picture you maybe had posted with it wrapped up. This is my problem, man. Is I love to hunt and fish.
Yeah.
I'll clean an animal. We can field dress, we can skin, we can cut meat up. But when you get to like people or pets that are injured,
Yeah.
I pass out, man.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
So You get to the hospital.
So we get to the hospital.
And your hand's still barely on.
So, and you can see my reaction in the video where I wrap it up real tight with the bandage, and I'm calling my girlfriend like, hey, we got to go to the hospital. Like, shit, this is how we're going to spend our night. And so she's freaking out. I'm pretty calm because I know that I've stopped the bleeding. I've had some experience with trauma aid. Not to get too dark, but that's kind of how my dad died. Was he cut himself real bad on accident, and that's kind of how he passed away. So that was in the back of my mind, playing the whole time. It was just kind of terrifying.
Sure.
And so we get into the car. We're going to the hospital. I'm not bleeding anymore. I'm feeling the sides of my fingers to make sure I haven't cut a nerve. I can feel my fingers. I'm not spurting blood, so I know I haven't hit an artery. I'm like, look, babe, like, the bleeding stopped. We're good. Like, she's like hyperventilating because she knows the story of my dad and everything. Too. And I'm like, look, we're good. Like, even if I pass out, I'm not going to die. I've stopped the bleeding. There's no nerve damage. Like, it's just the tendons. Like, it's going to be okay. And so we get to the hospital.
So are you naturally that calm, or were you being calm for her?
I really don't know. I mean, I've always been pretty. I feel like every guy wants to say, yeah, I'm totally calm in all situations. But I've been pretty calm in every emergency situation I've been in, pretty much. I don't know if it was exacerbated by the fact that I had just competed 2 weekends in a row and my adrenals were completely drained and my body was broken. I don't know if it was that, because I was just exhausted at the time still. So maybe it had something to do with it, but all the people that, like the nurses and stuff that have looked at that video on my Instagram, they're like, yeah, you had a really good response, like getting wrapped up fast and, getting people on the phone before you pass out. Like, that was really, really good. And like, great, calm response. And,
let me ask you something. And this is just me thinking while you're talking. Do you think it has anything to do with your mentality, as far as, I mean, you've got a strong mentality as far as you're competing in weightlifting and in the physicalness that you do. But one thing that I find interesting is you went to school for mechanical engineering. I work as a plumbing designer at an engineering firm. And one thing that I've noticed, I mean, something like that, when blood's happening, yeah, I'm going to freak out. But usually, and even the guys I work with, when something's going on, we tend to not freak out. We slow down and we focus on the issues, and then we start to focus on what we can do to start resolving those issues the quickest. Right. And I wonder if having like a mind that works mechanically kind of helps you slow things down and start problem solving immediately. Maybe. I mean, it's different when it's you that's happened to, but like even my wife, there's times where it's like I'm diabetic, right? There's sometimes where my sugars get low or whatever. And so I'll go get a juice and I'll sit down and I'm seeing lights and I'm like, hey, I'm fixing to pass out. I already had sugar, just be cool. Yeah. Don't call anybody. We'll be all right. And she freaks out a little bit. But I wonder if having that mentality of like a I guess a mechanical mind where you can sit there and evaluate an issue and then start to resolve those issues. I wonder if that contributes to something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that really could be it, because, I mean, as soon as it happened, and especially with the Strongman thing, I treat my body as a machine. Yeah. Like, not in like a conceited way, like, I am a machine, I can't be stopped. Like, I treat it as, it needs maintenance, it needs fuel, it needs recovery, it needs, this, that, and the other. There are certain things that has to happen for it to function properly. And so I, in a kind of abstract way, I have sort of disassociated from my body itself.
Well, yeah, I guess the way you use it, you have to understand it better than most people do.
Yeah, I suppose so. And you're kind of right. Like, what was going through my mind was, oh, problem. Okay, solution. Stop bleeding. Okay, next problem, nerves. Check. Time to get to the hospital for surgery. Like, I was never really scared. Like, I'm sure if I had cut my hand off and I was bleeding the fuck out and blood was pouring everywhere, I'm sure I would have been a little bit more animated. But I mean, I knew everything was fine. I knew I wasn't bleeding out. I knew I didn't have nerve damage, and I was pretty calm. I don't know.
How long did it take them to get you in for surgery?
So, oh God, that's
And
a
what
whole
was
other
your
story.
pain level? Because
Zero.
Zero?
Zero. The only time, there were only 2 times it ever hurt. And to this day, this has been the most painless injury I've ever had.
Really?
Like, it's been the worst, but like, I've had cuts on my leg that have hurt more than this.
Wow.
And I don't know why. But the only 2 times that it's hurt, we get to the hospital, they, I check in, and I don't think they realize how severe of an injury that I had. Because I walk in, calling like, hey, I just need, someone to check on my hand. I'll probably need some, tendon surgery or something. They're like, oh, okay. And they like look at it. It's not pouring blood, and they have me sit down for 3 hours. So I'm sitting there with an oily, dusty rag on my literal open hand
Good
for
OER,
about 3
man.
hours. Yeah, University Hospital, shout out. Ugh. So my first consultation with just a random dude, he comes out, he's like, okay, we're going to change your bandages, get you something clean. And he takes the rag off, and it's dry now. The blood is dry at this point because it's been 3 hours, but it's dry to the inside of my hand. So it's a big flap. You can see all the way down to the bone, halfway through my hand. And I got some meaty hands, and it's a deep one. And so he takes the rag off, and it starts bleeding again, dripping. And he goes, oh, that's a very big cut. I didn't realize. And I was like, yeah, I've been sitting in the room for 3 hours. And so they end up having to yank this rag out from inside my hand because it's dried and the blood is clotted by this point. So they yank it out from inside of my hand, which was not very pleasant. Okay. It starts bleeding again, and I'm like sweating. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's over. They put on a clean thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure that they will give me some anesthetic at some point. So I wait another 1-2 hours. It's like 3 a.m. at this point. This tiny little Asian plastic surgeon comes in for my consultation for surgery.
Guy or girl?
Girl.
She cute?
Yeah, pretty cute.
Nice.
But so she brings me back to this room, and I guess they just have so many people that it was like a room about this size, so maybe 20 by 20, with curtains for a cubicle space, just enough for you to sit in a chair.
Oh, I've seen those rooms before, yeah.
Probably 50 people in a room this size, just with a tiny cubicle.
That's where do your, whatchamacallit, they check your blood pressure and
Well, they were doing straight up surgery in these, and people were freaking the fuck out. It was not a calm environment. It was mental. People in fucking beds, all fucked up. And so she brings me back there. She's like, well, we got to hold off on the anesthetic because we don't know if you're going into surgery tonight. So if we put you under, we can't give you local anesthesia just yet because we don't know if it'll conflict. So we're just going to wait until we know for sure if we can get you into surgery.
When will we know that? That's what I would ask.
After they check to see if I need it. Jeez. So she sits me down. She gets her little hand in the glove, and she does one of these. She goes into the void of my hand, peels up the back of my hand like this. Like she's opening an orange. And she looks inside, she goes, okay, move your fingers. And I'm sitting there screaming inside, her hand, I can feel her fingers inside of my hand.
Anxiety you're causing.
It's so bad. So her hand is inside my hand, pulling up this flap of skin that's on the back of my hand. And she's like, okay, move your fingers. So I move my fingers. You can see the little ends of the tendon on the back kind of go forward and back. She's like, okay, yeah, you're definitely gonna need surgery. I'm like, I could have told you that when I couldn't open my hand.
Well, when you look at that, when you look at the scar, if you see, it's kind of like a C shape, right?
Yeah.
So the distance from this point to this point, that's got to be an inch and a quarter.
Yeah, that's where it went underneath.
That's massive.
Yeah. And they kind of opened it up because 3 days was when my actual plastic surgery was, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So to close me up for the night, because they can't fit me into surgery for the night.
My heart rate's going up, Nick.
No anesthesia. She's like, well, we have to clean it out first. Before we close, she just some rough stitches just to close it up for the night until 3 days go by and I can get actual surgery. So she's like, okay, we're just gonna have to clean it out. I'm like, okay, sounds great. She brings out this bowl full of iodine solution.
Is that the red stuff?
Yeah, it's red brown kind of nasty looking soup.
I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute.
Okay. So she's like, okay, just dunk your hand in there. So I stick my hand in, okay, and it is probably the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. Jeez. You know when you feel water that's way too hot and you pull it out and you're like, holy shit, it's gonna burn me.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like, but inside of my hand. So this flap of my hand is open and it's in this bucket of iodine, and I'm sweating and shaking, and like I have a pretty high pain tolerance. And I was dying. I was like pounding the little table next to my chair and freaking out. And
you're in a room with other people, right?
Freaking them out, you know. And she was like, okay, sitting there for 5 minutes.
It sounds super medieval.
It was brutal. It was brutal. Probably one of the worst pains I've ever experienced. But once I get my hand out, it's pretty much numb at this point. Like, who cares about stitches that right now anyway? Like, I just survived, you know, literal hell on earth. So they just put the stitches in. It was no big deal. Come in a couple days later. She didn't tell you
were the 12th person to put your hand in that bucket of iodine.
I mean, it's
little
sterile,
communal
so,
bucket. So we can change this out now. We've been using it all day.
Yeah. So I mean, and that was the last time it hurt. I mean, it really like that was the worst, and it hasn't hurt since. Like I came in for the surgery 3 days later. I got a
Did they have to rip it back
surgeon.
Open to clean it out for the surgery?
No, it actually pretty much healed at that point. So 3 days, it had pretty much closed.
Hang on.
They just popped the. I was asleep. They knocked me out, even though I told them not to.
What about did they fix the little ligaments?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So basically, what they did was they went in there and put little slip knots on all the the ligaments and the tendons, and they tied them all back together and wrapped them up, and then closed my hatch, and sent me on my way. But
that was 3 days later.
That was 3 days after the initial incident.
Jeez.
And I told him, because I wanted to stay awake, because I don't know why, but I have this weird like aversion to being put under.
I mean, that's scary. It really is. I would imagine. I've never had it happen to me, but I'd imagine. They tried to do it once at the dentist, and I was getting so loopy, it freaked me out that I took it off. And 20 minutes later, they're like, "What happened?"
Yeah.
I said, "I didn't like the way it made me feel." So I mean, that is very scary to get put under. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I'm sure it'll happen to me one day. I hope not anytime soon. Yeah. But I mean, that is scary.
And like I told him at the beginning, I was like, "Look, I don't want to go under. I will be still as shit for the surgery. I just don't want to be unconscious, please." And they're like, "Okay, we'll just do a shoulder block." And so they get this ultrasound unit, and they've got this big long needle, and they're poking in my shoulder, trying to find the nerve to.
And that's to numb your arm?
To numb my whole arm.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, okay, perfect. Like it was fine. Like it wasn't having any problems with that. And they were having trouble finding the nerve. And I was like, y'all good? Like, 5 minutes of them dicking around in there with the ultrasound and this giant needle, making my arm twitch.
Yeah.
Like, y'all found it yet? No? Okay. So they were like, okay, yeah, we got it, no problem. And so they take this needle out to, pack up the equipment, and they roll me to the operating room, and they're like getting set up, and the surgeon touches my arm, and he goes, "Can you feel this?" And I was like, "Yep." And the next thing I know, I woke up in the recovery room.
They put you out anyway. They're like, yeah, we won't put you out.
Well, apparently they couldn't find my nerve, so they called it, and then they gave me a.
Oh, gotcha.
They knocked me out, even though I told them I didn't want to.
And so that's the last thing you have to do, right? I mean, I'm sure you go back.
Yeah, no.
There's physical therapy, other stuff like that. But
so there was physical therapy. I'm completely done. Completely 100% now.
So
it's been 3 months.
When you say they tie a slip knot around what was it? You said ligament?
Yeah, tendon.
A tendon, and they pull them back. Do those grow back together, or is it the slip knot that's holding everything together?
So it's crazy medical science magic, is how I describe it. So it's like this. I don't know if you know what catgut is. It's like kind of what they tie leather together with.
Okay.
It's like a dried intestine kind of thing. That's kind of how the surgeon described it to me. It's a plastic. It's sterile, and it's man-made, but it becomes the tendon.
Oh, okay.
Like the tendon fuses with it, and it becomes the tendon. So like you see these bulges in my hand.
Yeah, compared to your other hand. Yeah, you can see that.
So you can see the bulges in the back of my hand move around. That's where the knots are in the tendon. So they basically tied through both of them, wrapped it, and then the tendon grew into those and then over it. So it's actually stronger. Like it's basically indestructible tendon.
I was going to ask about that, the strength of that material.
Yeah, basically indestructible. And it's super, super lucky because with Strongman, you do nothing with extensors.
Okay.
Almost nothing.
Yeah, you're always gripping instead of pushing out.
Yeah, your flexors are way more important in Strongman than extensors. So all my grip has been slow to come back, but it's pretty much there at this point.
Any nerve damage? Did you lose any feeling or anything like that?
It's just on the surface where it's still swollen is a little bit numb, but other than that, it's totally 100%.
Jeez. Yeah. And I feel like you, because I stalk you guys on the internet, but I feel like you came back pretty quick. I mean, even just so people know that, I guess, how passionate you are about what you do. You know, you were even in the gym lifting. I saw you had some strap going across your shoulder to do squats or deadlift.
Yep.
And that way you're not using necessarily your right hand.
Yep.
So it wasn't like you just put a pause to everything till you got better. You were already in the gym.
I was deadlifting the day after surgery.
So did that cause any pain in your hand as far as like blood pressure? Because I'd imagine, you know, you're forcing your blood pressure's going up a little bit. You know, you're doing these lifts. I'd imagine anytime you had a wound, you'd get a little bit of...
It wasn't bad initially. The only time that it really felt like it was like too much pressure in my hand was the first day that I came back. I got cleared to actually grip stuff. And so I put straps on to do deadlift, which kind of pull on your wrist, kind of right exactly where the scar was. And so it was kind of holding all the blood in that area. So that the first day that I came back to use straps, it swelled back up that day, and it didn't feel great, but it was totally fine.
So what was your time frame between that day and the day that you were you injured yourself? Was it 3 months or something? Because I feel like it was pretty quick.
So I think it was 6 weeks. So I started training the day after surgery. The day after surgery, I never stopped training. There was never a time where I was like out for a week or two. I was still in the gym helping Austin and helping our Gone in the Wind training partner Toby, who's been MIA for the past few weeks. But and shout out to Austin, by the way, my training partner, best friend. He's as my gift to surviving surgery, he's the one that bought me the deadlift harness.
Oh, cool.
to deadlift without my hands. So I
feel like the world's a better place with you two in the gym together. I don't know why. I don't know why. I feel like it's a better place.
Yeah, he's the man. But so it was, I never really stopped, but it was between surgery and the time that I was actually using my hand was about 6 weeks.
Oh, wow. That's quick.
But I started real slow. I didn't want to, tear anything. I didn't want to start back to zero. So I, just slowly got into it. If my hand was hurting one day, if it felt bad, if it felt off, just called it. And I just slowly let it come back because I've always been able to kind of gauge where my body is. And so I just listen to it. Don't be an asshole,
it'll set you back.
It can either be 3 months to 100% or a year. Yeah. So you can either listen to it and recover faster or push it and hit some cool numbers and then re-injure your hand and then you're back to zero. So it was just kind of a no-brainer for me to just, be patient.
And who's to say that, people like to push themselves all the time, but who's to say that, you push yourself, you re-injure it, you get it fixed again. Who's to say that you're ever going to be as well after that injury as you could have been just having it heal one time?
Yeah, exactly.
It may not get back to...
And that's actually what the surgeon told me was if they have to go in for surgery again, so one of the biggest issues with tendon repair is that the tendon will overgrow and grow into the scar tissue around it. Mm-hmm. So like where the saw went through my hand, tendon grew into that. So I had almost zero range of motion for probably a month because the tendon had grown into the actual scar tissue where the saw had come through. And so you have to work through that and break it up and do tendon glide therapy movements.
Oh, so that's how you avoid that?
Yeah. Gotcha. So I couldn't close a fist for like a month probably.
Wow. So what's the most difficult thing right now? Is it the deadlift from grabbing the bar, or what's kind of... Are you back 100%?
100%.
All across 100%, the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like pure grip strength. We do some like bar holds from the side to kind of mess with grip every week or two. And probably last month I couldn't even barely do the bar holding it, just raw grip strength.
Yeah.
And now I can do, 150 pounds or whatever.
That's awesome.
So it's coming back really fast. Like you could see it even just after like a month or two, like the forearm had already atrophied pretty significantly. And so it's coming back really fast. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm not stressed about it at all.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. And honestly, it was probably the best thing that's ever happened to my strongman journey. I've been doing it for 2.5 years or so now from starting. And
it's been that recent?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. I've only been training since 2015.
That's crazy, man.
Going from 180 pounds body weight to 330 now.
There's kind of like that AD and BC, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's this timeline where it's Nick's hand injury. Because like I said, I follow you. I follow Rob. I follow Austin and a few other people. And it's funny because your injury happened. I was kind of paying attention to that. But it looks like you and Austin both have increased strength. And it looks like you've both leaned out.
Yeah.
I was telling him the other day, he's always been a thicker guy.
Yeah.
And he looks a lot leaner than he did maybe 6 months ago. Yep. It's kind of crazy. And it's funny because he's got his pro card, right?
Yep.
You're on the verge of getting yours.
I was so close. I was beating him in the last event of Beer Stone, and I lost.
That was the one in the Valley.
1 stone. Yep.
That was the one in the Valley.
So sad.
And it's like you guys are right there on the edge of, doing it for a living kind of thing.
Yeah, breaking into the worldwide scene.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, it seems like just a matter of months. And like I said, I kind of draw the line with where you hurt your hand, where you can physically tell you guys are changing, more than just being a thick, strong guys.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see the athleticism in y'all's movements, in y'all's lifts and carrying things, and you're leaning out. And it's, man, it's impressive, man.
So, and that's why I say it might have been the greatest thing that I could have done for my strongman training was it. I had to start from zero, basically. I went back and fixed everything, all the foundational issues that I had or allowed myself to have over the past few years, off the board. Completely start a new diet, reassess my diet, sleep, got a CPAP, recovery.
Oh, man, the CPAP's huge, man.
Life-changing. Actually, life-changing. So even when I was 180 pounds, I had a sleep study in high school. I had severe sleep apnea in high school.
Yeah.
So imagine what it is at almost double body weight.
Hey, man, so let me ask you, how many times you stopped breathing in the course of an hour or a minute, whatever it was? What did they test you? Did they tell you the results?
I think it was like 30 or something crazy.
Really?
20 something, yeah.
They told me when I went in for mine that I quit breathing twice a minute.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so it kind of got to the point where I've always been a big dude. But there's a secret weight that I had where I was like, oh, this was bad after I passed this one. And so I ended up going for a test. And I'm stupid, man. I went for the test and I was like, man, me and this chick are making out. We're the only two people here. And then I fell asleep and I was like, once they start putting all the nodes on you, it's like, this, I feel less attractive.
Yeah.
And so they put the thing on me. You can't sleep, right? You're not used to having this thing on your head. And finally, I guess I fell asleep. It must have been like 3:00 in the morning. I had to pee one time, which was stupid because it's like you've got to keep all these things on you.
Yep.
You look like I don't know, like a predator.
Half-built Terminator or something.
Yeah, only real out of shape. And so I ended up going, I did the test. They told me the results and I was like, is that good? And they're like, no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And so I ended up
it'll kill you. It'll kill you.
You know what's funny is like when you do the research on what it's doing to your body, not breathing, it's unbelievable.
Unreal.
And even now, like I still have hard time sleeping with it sometimes.
Yeah.
I every night I put it on, most nights. And I tell you what, when I first finally, I would put it on for 30 minutes and I'd take it off. And they had this weird thing. It has a chip in it. And the doctor's like, well, you've got to wear it so many minutes for your insurance to continue to cover all your things. It was weird. So I'd wear it, I'd put it on, let it run, off to the side. And the day that I said, you know what, I'm going to wear this thing every freaking day, I was asleep in bed and I had a dream and I also felt like somebody was sitting on my chest choking me. Like I had a dream that was happening and I literally felt that way. And I woke up and I was like, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to wear this thing every day from now on.
Yep.
And I do. Every now and then it comes off. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird or whatever. It's awkward to sleep in. The pressure's so high that it sometimes breaks the seal and it whistles. And it's.
Do you have the full face mask or the little nose mask?
I got the full face mask. What do you have?
I have the little nose pillows.
Well, see, I almost did that, but I guess the pressure that I had up on it, they're kind of like, it's not going to stay in. So I went with the mask.
I have it cranked up to max too. It's great, yeah. Because
I
I
need
can
to
sleep.
revisit.
I'm a side sleeper and like a kind of like a face down if I can.
I am too.
And the nose thing makes it.
I need to look into
super
it again.
comfortable.
I've been using the same. I mean, I've bought
Austin
stuff.
has a nose too.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and I mean, my sister's had one. I think my dad's had one. My mom might even have one. And I tell you what, you don't realize you're not sleeping until you use that thing and you get some sleep.
Yep.
And it's like, dude, it was so bad. And even now it gets bad every now and then. I would fall asleep driving home. And there was one time I was driving home from work. I was telling my wife, I was like, I had my hands on the steering wheel, and I could not stay awake. And I didn't pull over. I'm an idiot, right?
Yeah.
So I'm driving, and all of a sudden, my hands hit my lap, and that woke me up. And I was like, "Jeez, man, it's so it." If you think you have sleep apnea, go get the damn test and put the mask on, because you don't know what you're missing. Man.
Seriously, and like going from a lifetime of trying to manage it on your own with pillows and sleep positions and shit, it's doesn't even come close.
Yeah.
Go get CPAP. And what Austin and I did too is we didn't go through insurance or anything like that. We just went on Craigslist and bought a $300 machine, and it is life changing.
That the nice thing about it, like even the hoses and the masks and stuff, when I first got it, you couldn't find it anywhere but through the doctor.
Yeah.
And now you can get the shit on Amazon.
Yeah.
You can get all the little pieces and things that go with it. You can go on YouTube and change the pressures, and they make it weird to where you have to go to the doctor. But now YouTube, you can find everything on there. So I've upped the pressure on it, but get a damn mask.
100%. If you're over like 230 pounds, get a mask.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen people that don't look like they would need one, but it's weird because you can tell when people have that excess, I guess, fat around the neckline or the chin area, that shit's choking you out.
I mean,
man.
even when I was 180 pounds, I still had it severely,
really?
and I was damn near anorexic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, I mean, some people just have too much meat. Like the sleep doctors when I was a kid, they were talking about how like the back of the tongue is like the shape of it can sometimes, like if it's too relaxed, it can fall into the airway.
Really?
And so it's not even necessarily like a weight thing, because I was way underweight for my height.
Yeah.
And I still had severe sleep apnea.
And I mean, chicks dig that shit, man. I
mean, just having a CPAP as a bachelor, it would be like the worst thing. Like have this new girl over, your Tinder date's coming over, y'all are making out like, all right, babe, time for bed. Get the mask on and try and fall asleep. And she's like, what the hell did I just walk into?
We went to me, my wife, my buddy, and his wife. We went to a resort in the Woodlands years ago. We took the kids or whatever. And they were like, hey, let's split a room, 2 king-size beds, whatever.
First mistake.
All right. Oh, it's terrible. I never did again. Well, she's like, we get ready for bed, right? And I've got carpal tunnel, too, so my hands are always hurting or they fall asleep. And so it's funny because I have put these little carpal tunnel wrist things on, and I put my mask on and it's blowing air. And my buddy's wife looks at me. She's like, you look like an astronaut. Oh, man.
That's hilarious.
I hope Nina never leaves me because I'll be by myself forever. So. Well, good, man. I'm telling you, like I said, there's this definitive change in even the two of y'all.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you're both individuals. You're both good dudes. But it's kind of like... I just associate y'all being together, man.
Yeah.
It's
hilarious. Like when one of us is missing, the other one just gets bombarded. Where's Austin? He was in Montana this week.
Yeah, I saw his
Minnesota
pictures.
or whatever. And every second that I'm in the gym, hey, where's Austin? You're training? Where's Austin?
Why are you out of the house without him?
Where's your handler? And he gets the same thing too. Like when I miss a day or whatever, Where's Nick?
Well, you know,
What's
the
he
cool
doing?
thing about that is I'm lazy, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, Tim always would tell me, hey, consistency. And to have somebody, for like the two of you, to hold each other accountable, and not just that, you want to go because
Yeah.
you enjoy each other, and it's like a team, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
a strong man, powerlifting, weightlifting, exercise, you're doing it as an individual,
Yeah.
it's benefiting the individual. But when you can do it as a team, and it's kind of like when you have your down days and you don't want to be there, and your teammates up, it brings you up,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so I think that's what kind of it's like y'all like brothers that from other mothers.
No, for
and
real.
fathers.
It really is like that too. And I believe even if we had never met, we would still be in the gym getting the work done and improving. But we just enhance each other. Like I bring the heat and he brings the cold. Like, I bring the intensity to the workout, I feel like most of the time. And he is always the one that's like, no, back the weight down a little bit, focus on, being precise, focus on, hitting these rep ranges properly, proper RPE. It was something that him and Tim both took a long time to drill into my head was, rest is important, backing down is important, ramping up is important, but do it slowly, just don't be an asshole,
Yeah.
don't ego lift. So I feel like as a team, it's perfect. It's perfect. We know each other, what we need, what implements we need to help each other with, or, you name it. Like we're teammates, we're partners, we're friends, and it just works out. It's perfect.
And it's got to help to have somebody outside of yourself to be able to go, hey, you're lacking in this.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And we don't sugarcoat shit.
Yeah.
Be like, Austin, you're fucking, you're cheating on the log clean or whatever it is. Like I'll call his ass out and he'll call me out. And it's, I don't think we've never gotten mad about that. Like it's for the goal of getting to world's strongest man for both of us.
Yeah.
It's never about like, oh, fuck you, you told me my deadlift looked bad. Like, of course not. Like we're both here to, have fun. We, shoot the shit and enjoy hanging out and talking to people and messing around. But like when we're strapped to that bar or we're loading up, on a log or whatever it is, like we're giving 100% and we're giving each other 100%, feedback, encouragement, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we both attribute kind of each other's success to each other. Like, I don't think I would be anywhere near as strong or precise or intelligent as I am now if I hadn't trained with him. And I don't think he would have progressed as fast as he would have without me. I think you'll say the same thing.
And I'm sure there's a lot of camaraderie in the sport.
Yeah.
But there's probably also a lot of, I guess, jealousy that could come from that. So, to be able to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable
Yeah.
and yet at the same time, they're on they're on your side.
Yeah.
There's got to be mentally that's got to be beneficial as well. That way hey, he's not trying to redirect me or mislead me. He's doing it because we're buddies and he cares about me getting better. So
yeah,
it's awesome, man.
It's definitely like, and you'll notice it in any sport, I think, but in Strongman there are just so many nice people that like you just make so many friends. But in any sport, you have a couple assholes where like they're like, yeah, I'm gonna shit on your deadlift. Like you think you're gonna win, like those kind of guys. But like, it doesn't matter when you go onto the field and you're about to, rep a deadlift for as many reps as you can. Go to the absolute red line in a contest. It doesn't matter if they're your friend or not. Like, you have to hit your technique. You have to be efficient with your lifts, and you have to have the power to win. So like in the contest, it doesn't matter if you have a friend there or not, but in training, it's so, so important. If you don't have a good training partner to hold you accountable, to tell you to drop the weight, to add weight, to stop for the day, to, we need to take a break and eat or whatever it is, you're just doing yourself a disservice and you're not progressing as fast as you could have. And I feel like both Austin and I have found perfect training partners in each other.
Well, I think seeing you guys, you see guys doing like jiu-jitsu and people who fight, people that do extremely physical things together. At a certain point, there's a level of suffering that happens, and having that suffering take place, whether you're on the same team or just somebody else in the gym or somebody else, whatever sport it is, when there's that mutual suffering, it's hard to be an egotistical asshole.
Yeah,
because like you're too tired, you're too wore out, and you know what? I know that he's done everything that I did.
Yeah.
He feels the same way that I do.
Yeah.
And man, that's where I think really good connections come from. Is through that suffering.
Yeah.
And I'll include myself. A lot of us don't have that daily suffering, that will humble you and make you really start to evaluate the important things,
Yeah.
And that's why I love watching you guys. I think that's the shit. I think it's cool. Tim's got a good thing going on at the gym, and there's a lot of people, and it seems, like you said, you're always going to have little egos, and not everybody's always going to get along. But for the most part, to be able to have that environment where everybody's suffering together, hey, we're there's some sort of brother and sisterhood in that suffering. So
yeah, I love I think about it too a lot, is like the philosophy of lifting, like why do you put yourself through this, like, the dream of attaining something greater, or like reaching that full potential, like how will you know how great you could be if you don't try? You know what I mean? Like if you don't give it 100%, like what is the point of going through life? Like if you find something that you love, like even when I was doing the knife making thing and I was really passionate about it, like what is the point of making knives if you're going to make little shitters? You know what I mean? Like if you're going to shit them out and not be proud of them, like there's no point in wasting your time. Like, yeah, you can make a couple bucks, but like no one's going to remember your name. No one's going to remember your product. No one cares, So, and I mean, you hear it all the time, like, why do it if you're not going to give it 100%? But like, if it's your body and it's your potential that you're carving, like a block of marble, you know what I mean? Like you're carving all of the excess fat away from it. Like some of us literally.
Yeah.
But like you are trying to reach your potential for whatever goal that it is, whether it's to be the world's strongest man. How do you know? Like you could be 100% capable. I was never born with strength. I was a runner. I loved to be active, but I was never strong. I walked into the weight room and I embarrassed myself, couldn't bench a plate, didn't try, didn't care, didn't want to lift. Didn't want to. Guys like Austin, born with a ton of strength naturally, squatting, 500-600 pounds at 15 years old. Crazy.
That's crazy.
And I just feel like if you have something that you care about so much, like Austin and I do, reaching, America's Strongest Man, World's Strongest Man, putting our stamp on the strongman community, if you're going to do it, you got to go all the way.
Sure.
And to find a training partner that thinks the same way, it's invaluable.
I think that's one thing that that I get concerned with like, and that's your avenue, and there's other people that have other avenues that it's the same mentality, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of one thing that I get a little concerned in. There's never an always, and there's never a never. But I see a lot of like younger people that, I've had conversations with other folks, and it's kind of like, I'll use my nephew, for example. He's like 18, 19 years old. Since he's been a young adult, it's like constant crisis, constant issues. Then you have the corona, and now you got to stay away from each other. And now people have gone to playing video games online and not necessarily interacting in person.
Yeah.
And it's like they're missing that struggle at a young age to where they can sit there and go, the price of failure is not very high, right? And then when they get to be older adults, they either don't pursue something because they're afraid of that struggle, or they try and put themselves out there and don't know how to handle that failure because they didn't go through that at any point in their life.
Right.
And there's this weird little thing that like I saw some kids walking across a parking lot earlier today, and now granted, I'm seeing them in a moment, right? But they look miserable. You know, they're barely moving, and when you see them just in that moment, you're kind of like, you're worried about them. Yeah. You're worried about the mental strength, the capacity to endure, and you're like, you hear about all these shootings happening, and it's funny because it's not funny, but it's funny because it's weird how they look the same. They look similar. They look tired. They look hopeless. They look run down. They all fucking look the same, you know? And it's a mentality that I feel like as a culture, it's being cultivated through stupid shit, you know? And not necessarily things like what you guys go through, where it's a physical thing. You know, we're physically seeing each other. We're physically doing something. We're physically stressing ourselves to a certain point to where when I go home, granted, we all worry about similar things, bills, you know, relationships, things of that nature. But you've been able to endure other things in your life, and you know, hey, I'm capable of getting through this too. You know, I did a podcast with my buddy Bob. Bob was huge into drugs. He had a band. He was bad into drugs, had a bunch of problems like that. And you know, I told him I'm super impressed with people like Bob that have gotten out of that. You know, I told him I've never had to. My dad, similar issues, but it's like I've never had to endure something like that and come out on the other side. I said, but the fact that you've been to hell, you know, and have gotten out of it, that tells you that you're battle tested, you know. Yeah. And similarly with you guys, you battle test yourself daily, physically, you know. And it's like we should all push ourselves into something that we're uncomfortable with, you know, me included.
I just feel like it's everyone's own life journey when they're going to experience that struggle. As a kid, my dad owned a business with 20 employees, super successful, had properties and, you know, all kinds of stuff. He had money. And I was given everything I needed, went to a school, didn't have to pay for anything, went to college, didn't have to pay for anything. And then he passed away and I had nothing. My stepmom took everything. I all of a sudden, literally overnight, had no school paid for, no rent paid for, no groceries paid for, no allowance. I had to grow the fuck up overnight. But I was 21.
Yeah.
So it can happen to anyone at any time. Like these kids, yeah, they, you know, maybe they don't go outside as much and, you know, have to deal with bullies and that kind of shit. But like, you know, at some point in their life, they're going to get tested. And there's this, like, whenever my dad passed away, there was this, I don't know if it's a Chinese proverb or whatever, but it's this saying, you can either be a potato or an egg. And the crucible of life is the boiling water. You can either go into the boiling water and get softened like the potato, or you can go into the boiling water and get hardened like the egg. And it's kind of a silly analogy, but it's really true. Like, It's a choice. You can either go through these trying times in your life, parent passing away, losing a big job, losing a child, losing a dream, you know, a dream somehow becoming unattainable. You can either let it destroy you, or you can stand your ground, learn from it, you know, walk a different path and do it your way. And I feel like these kids, like, they just haven't been given that opportunity yet.
Yeah.
And like, as morbid as it is, like, everybody needs a struggle. If this world was a utopia, you know, there'd be a bunch of lame ass people everywhere, you know?
Yeah. It's funny. I always joke with, I say years ago, the problem with the youth was Little League in George West, Texas, which is where I'm from, because they used to give everybody a trophy all of a sudden. And, you know, one thing, again, not being a father, giving fatherly advice, I was a kid once, so that's what I kind of attribute my knowledge to. I learned
fathering to your past self.
I learned that, and learning from a smart guy
yeah.
Who'd seen some shit. But, you know, it's like, I always tell people, you can either let your kids struggle and fail while they're with you, and then they learn those traits and they learn how to endure that, or the world can show them how to do that. And when the world does it, there's a lot more pain that comes with it. You know, the prices and the stakes are higher. So, you know, I think us being able to acknowledge, hey, we're going to be tested at some point. Let me slowly test myself and build myself up, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever it is. I think that we need to make ourselves uncomfortable at times. And, I'm not the best at that either, but at the same time, I think there's something to that. That way we are ready, when the time comes. And like you said, it could be anything. It could be I lost my, I always thought we were the shit growing up. Lost my brother 3 years ago, and I told my sister a while back. I said, man, I never realized we weren't what I thought we were. Once we lost Eddie, he was the hub of the wheel.
Yep.
All of a sudden it's like we're emotional now, and it's things don't function the way they used to.
Yep.
And it's interesting because even going through that and seeing other people have losses and going through the certain emotions, it brings me back to my brother. Went to a funeral this weekend, and it's like you still struggle with it. And Nina, my wife, had told me, she's like, it's all right, it's all right to feel that way. She goes, every funeral I go to is my mom's funeral. Every funeral you're going to go to is your brother's funeral.
Yep.
And so being able to work through those kinds of struggles, and with you guys, with the Strongman and the lifting that you guys do, that's one of those things where you're struggling physically and mentally. I'm not the best at exercising, but I've slowly started bringing the kettlebells back in. I bought a little mace and doing some other stuff. Because I know, man, I need to get my head out of my ass,
Yeah.
And it's like there's that struggle where, when I'm doing kettlebells at the house or I'm working with the mace or something, just to kind of work on my core, because everything hurts. I'm 45 and I'm like, how does everything freaking hurt? My father-in-law is 89, and it's like, granted, am I going to make 89? Probably not. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what's 55 going to be like if this shit already hurts like this? So being able to get through that.
I think we're the exact same. I just think that the ability for me to train for 5 hours 3 times a week and the ability for you to train the difference is fuel. I am propelled forward to attack every session because I have a dream. I've got a goal. I'm super goal oriented already, and I want to be a pro strongman. I want to be world's strongest man someday. And that's what drives me. If you aren't motivated, if you don't have that soul fuel or whatever, then you're just gonna go through the motions, and that's okay. Like, you can go through the motions and develop a habit and get into the zone, but like, you need to find something that really drives you. It goes back to the philosophy of lifting, of like, why are you gonna suffer? You have to have a reason. Mine is very defined. And I feel like if you sit down and you really think, what am I gonna suffer for? Why would I go outside and suffer?
Yeah.
Where it has to be a choice.
At what point did you decide that this was your goal? How long ago was that? Was that 5 years ago when you started, or 2015, or was it recent?
So in 2015, I was still working on my undergrad at UTSA, and I was just doing the bro split at UTSA Rec. I hadn't started heavy metal yet. I was just, going and 180-pound me doing little curls and, trying my best to deadlift and making a fool out of myself. But so in 2020 was when I started heavy metal. I didn't, know anything about World's Strongest Man. I didn't know anything about Strongman. I'd maybe seen a couple, like, Half-Thor Bjornsson videos or something like that on YouTube. But the first day that I go into heavy metal, I see all this equipment, and I meet Austin, day one. And I feel like we immediately, become friends, joking around, and, he's helping me learn these implements that I've never touched before in my life. And, within a month, he has me convinced to start prep for my first show, which was the Ronnie Coleman Classic in 2020, which ended up winning first show. And, I'm not sure when it was that the switch flipped. It may have been literally day one of walking into heavy metal that I knew.
Yeah.
Because, and everybody at heavy metal will tell you, Tim, Michelle, Austin, I was there for 8 hours the first day.
Really?
I tried log, farmers, Husafel, bag throw. I tried everything. I wanted to touch it all. I fell in love. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I got my hands on the Husafell, I feel like I really, really fell in love. And I don't know if it turned into like I'm going to be world's strongest man one day, but I was like, I love strongman and I want to do strongman and I want to be as good at strongman as I can be. And then, win a couple shows, get closer and closer to, actually being competitive with Austin. I beat him at a couple events at Beerstone, which was huge for me. I beat Bobby Thompson, world's strongest man finalist at multiple events at Beerstone. I beat Trey Mitchell. I think he got 3rd or 4th at World's Strongest Man last year. I beat him at 2-3 events at Texas Strongest Man. Like, once I realized that I was really good at it, I was never gifted with strength, but, over a couple years of working really hard, I realized that I'm okay. I can go, toe to toe with the best in the world at some of these events. And just, getting a glimpse at, the true potential that lies in there if I stay the path.
Yeah.
That's what really turned the switch. And I don't know if it was any singular moment, but I think whenever I could see the little glint of, oh shit, I can really do this good. I can, I could catch up with Austin one day. I could pass him. I can beat him at events. I can beat some of the world's best at 2 years of training and, just dicking around with my buddy in the gym. Like, I'm capable, you know?
Well, it's almost got to be exciting because it's almost like peeking behind a curtain.
Yeah.
And seeing what's back there and then, the injury happens. And so I'd imagine in that time of recovery and up to now, there's that constant what you saw when you peeked behind the curtain, by almost having your pro card, and wondering, okay, well, what else is back there? Yep. It's got to be exciting, man. It's got to be super exciting.
Absolutely. And like, ever since I was a kid, every kid wants to be a superhero and every kid wants to, be the guy. But like, ever since I was a little kid, I was always super goal oriented. Like, I want to be the best skateboarder. I want to be the best, motocrosser or the best, parkour or whatever the hell I was doing at the time. I wanted to be the best. And then I feel like all of those little sports and hobbies that I fell in love with as a kid, all were little arrows pointing to strongman, like they were all little facets of what strongman really is at its core, like the skill and the balance of skateboarding, the adrenaline rush and the competitiveness of motocross, the dedication and time input of parkour. They were all the things that I loved about those sports and activities that I had as a kid that I was obsessed with. They were all little arrows pointing to strongman. Sure. You know what I mean? And I feel like once it clicked, once I realized that, oh shit, like I have the body for this. I was blessed with a body to do this. I have the means. I can afford the food. I can afford the nutrition. I can put the time, at the same time as Austin 3 times a week for 4 hours a day. I can recover on my days off. Like, I can do it. I have the ability. There's nothing stopping me from going 100% and really seeing what I can do. And I feel like I've only been doing this for 2.5 years, and I'm damn close to catching up with Austin, who's been doing strongman real hard for, I think, like, 4 or 5 years, but he's been lifting for 15 years or something, 10, 15 years, lifting for a long, long time. And it's all just encouraging. You know what I mean? Like, just to see what I thought that I saw as a kid really,
that's awesome.
Be a possibility. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the future for you, future for Austin, and I like seeing you guys compete together. Because I see the camaraderie, between the two of you. and I think the future is going to be exciting, man. I know that he's got an event coming up. When's your next event?
So in the next 2 weeks, I'm doing videos for official Strongman Games online qualifier.
Okay.
Worldwide online qualifier. So if I get top 10 in these 3 videos that I have to submit, I'll go to official Strongman Games, which is kind of a worldwide World's Strongest Man qualifying tour sort of thing.
What are your 3 videos for? Are they like a deadlift?
Yeah, so it's
press?
a 3-rep max deadlift.
Okay.
Hoping for like 800 pounds for 3 reps.
Oh, wow.
We'll see. A max overhead press. So it doesn't matter if it's log or barbell or whatever, just as much weight as you can push over your head. And then a max sandbag or stone to shoulder.
Okay.
So
what are your weights right now?
So I'm hoping for a 400 to 420 overhead press.
Okay.
If my shoulder holds up. 400 or so bag to shoulder. It's such a massive, unwieldy bag of sand. It's so
are you
horrible.
literally going off the ground, or are you be able to set it up? Okay.
Yep. Pick it up off the ground and then put it on your shoulder and stand up. It's brutal.
Sandbags are crazy,
It's
man.
brutal. And the sandbag that Tim got us, shout out to Heavy Metal Fitness, by the way, because I told him the first day that I found out that I was going to do OSG online, he was like, okay, so we need a 400-pound Cerberus bag. Okay, he ordered it same day.
Awesome.
$160, whatever it was. He didn't even ask twice. Okay, 400-pound sandbag, got it. Boom, shipped next day. Perfect.
Yeah.
But oh wow, that was really close airplane. Holy crap!
I'm telling you, it's literally across the street.
Oh my god, that was really close.
The turnaround
just across the tree line.
Just across the street.
Wow,
Yeah,
I wasn't
crazy.
expecting to be that close. That was crazy.
I've done a podcast with a couple of people, and they're like, "We thought a plane was going to crash." Oh no, it's an airport.
That's wild. I didn't realize it was that close. But yeah, so low 400s overhead press, low 400s bag to shoulder, high 7s, low 8s deadlift for 3 reps.
Okay.
And then if I am in the top 10 in the world, I will get an invite to official Strongman Games in November, which is in Florida, and I will compete against the best.
So that's, you said, the official Strongman Games.
Official Strongman Games.
So that's Magnus ver Magnuson and those types of guys.
Exactly. So it's if you.
I just showed my age because Magnus was doing this stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, he's the man still. But yeah, so it's the official qualifying tour for World's Strongest Man. So
Wow.
if you, I think it's podium. I don't know if it's first place or podium at official Strongman Games in November. You go to Giants Live. And Giants Live is the official qualifying tour for World's Strongest Man. So
Okay.
if you go to Giants Live, you do well, you get podiums, top 5s, that kind of thing, you'll get the invite to Worlds for the next year.
That's crazy, man.
So we're on the path.
That's crazy that it's a handful of events. It's a handful of events that.
It's really, really unfortunate because I am not very statically strong. Like Austin is a static freak. He can deadlift, 100 pounds more than me on any day. So the 3 events that they're doing for their online qualifier just happen to be my worst 3 events. A heavy deadlift, a heavy overhead press, and stones, which the stones are what cost me my pro card at Beer Stone.
Oh,
because
gotcha.
I couldn't lift I think it was like a 400 or 420 pound stone, and Austin and Josh Hatfield, the 2 that were tied behind me in third going into the last event, they both got it. So they bumped me off the podium in the last event, and I lost my pro card by a point or half a point or whatever it was. So literally my 3 worst events, I have to be top 10 in the world to go to official Strongman Games. But luckily, official Strongman Games is known for moving events and carries and throws and that kind of thing, which are my jam.
Yeah.
So they just posted the events a few days ago. Circus dumbbell, I'm really good at. Yoke, sandbag to shoulder, like medley. So it should be.
That's
if I can
cool,
get
man.
in, I should have a decent shot of going all the way.
So again, this the video you're making. When is the due date on that?
July 31st is the last day to submit. So this coming up week, I think tomorrow actually I'll go for like a light attempt on all of these. I'll probably go for like a mid-7s deadlift, mid-high 3s bag, and a mid-high 3s press.
Okay.
Probably tomorrow or Wednesday. And then I'll rest all weekend, eat as much as I possibly can, and then next week I'll go just balls out redline.
That's cool, man. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna do? I guess you've got everything set up to record and everybody's.
We should, yeah, because you have to do the lift and then like weigh the weights. So we kind of had a practice already doing the Shaw Classic qualifiers for Austin.
Oh, okay.
So he had pretty much the exact same thing. He had like a log press 3-rep max, a deadlift max, and like a farmer's max. So we pretty much have it already figured out.
What are y'all weighing the weights with?
We have like a pallet scale.
Okay.
That we bring out, and we can we'll put it on a little tripod like that and zero it out and roll the plates on it, roll them off, have them all recorded.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's awesome, man. Yeah. I'm excited for you.
Yeah. I mean, so, and it's interesting too because Austin could absolutely qualify for official strongman games, but he qualified for America's Strongest Man when he got second place at Beerstone.
Okay.
So, and America's Strongest Man, I think, is 2 weeks before official strongman games. So he could absolutely qualify for official strongman games, but the other route to World's Strongest Man, so we're kind of like
taking two different paths.
Yeah, taking two different paths to the same thing is, if you get a national title, if he wins America's Strongest Man or even podiums really, he has a good shot of getting an invite to a Giants Live or to a Arnold's qualifier, Arnold Santa Monica, that kind of thing, which could lead him to Arnold's Pro, or a straight up invite to Worlds. So both two separate paths towards the same goal of Worlds.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be. I think there's a potential to see the two of you at the same time at the World's Strongest Man. That'd be something cool, man.
That would be legendary. And I'm so sad because if we had both podiumed at Beerstone, goddamn Josh Hatfield, you son of a bitch. I gave him like a 7-hour ride back to San Antonio the next day, and the whole time him and his girlfriend were giving me shit about fourth place. They're just messing with me the whole time.
I'd have left them at the checkpoint, man.
No, I love them to death. They're the best. But if Austin and I had both gotten on the podium, we both would have gone pro at the same time. We both would have gotten invites to America's Strongest Man, and we both would have competed at America's Strongest Man later this year.
That's crazy.
That would have been legendary.
That's crazy.
That would have been legendary. I mean, like, just imagine. It would have been so perfect.
But you know what, man? This is the cool thing about it is now you're both on a similar trajectory.
Yeah.
Two different paths. So it'll be similar, but two different experiences. And it's all the same group. It's all the same team. It's all the same house, you know? And that almost doubles the experience.
Very true. Very true.
And that makes that shit that much better.
True. And like as enjoyable as it is to compete with him in the same show, like being able to, because having your training partner as your handler on a comp day is really, really invaluable, because I know what he needs when he needs it. I know how he's feeling, how he's looking, so if I can be his handler at America's Strongest Man and focus on him instead of focusing on me competing at America's Strongest Man, that just benefits him, and vice versa. He can help me, help me put on gear, help me, get me food, get me equipment, whatever I need on competition day, because he has that experience of, what I need when I need it.
Well, I saw him the other day shoving you in a bodysuit. That was
deadlift suit.
You know what? I don't think, like, I love my wife.
Yeah.
She wouldn't do that shit for me.
He was pulling my legs down into the suit. It's
weren't
really
you
bad.
hanging from a bar that was in a squat rack or something too?
Yep.
Oh man,
it's really bad. Like, deadlift suits are no joke.
So how do you even get out of it? If that's how you get in it, how do you get out of it?
You just got to pull real hard.
You gotta have a good buddy
and pray.
Good buddy and a good back.
Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch. You know what I mean?
Well, I'd imagine if you had some help getting that thing off, and somebody lost their grip or it slipped. It'd be like getting hit by one of those little bungee cord deals.
It's not stretchy at all.
No?
No. It's,
okay.
It's locked down tight.
Really? Jeez.
Yeah. There's no stretch, no flex.
I saw that and I was like,
it's horrible. I have bruises on my quads.
Really?
Like high up on my quad where the end of the short is. It'll bruise you up good.
You know, you always see those funny memes where it's like relationship goals. When I saw that photo, I was like, damn, that's the shit I want. That's what I want in life. Like, I looked at my wife with disgust. I was like, you would never do that for me. Oh, shit. Well, man, I tell you what. Where can people find you? What's your Instagram and wherever else they can find you? If you're still selling knives, what you got going on?
So I'm not selling knives anymore. I am now officially a personal trainer at Heavy Metal Fitness.
Okay.
So if you want to learn Strongman, if you want, to get stronger, to get better, reach out to me on Instagram at Nick Guardione, GUARDEEEOWN. That's pretty much all there is for
Everybody
me.
can find you for whatever they need to find you for there.
That's right. Yep.
Cool, man. How many people are you training right now?
Just one. I just started a few weeks ago. I just took one of Tim's old clients just to really get used to it, nail down my process, and just get comfortable being a coach because I've never done that before.
Yeah.
So I just took one of Tim's clients who can give me real good feedback, and that way whenever I have a multiple clients, I'm more comfortable before I just jump right into it.
Well, I think that's going to be exciting for you because I see I see your approach to the physical portion of it. I'd imagine that your approach to the mental portion and the coaching aspect of it and the programming is going to be just as impressive, man. So I think that's going to be cool for you.
I feel like one of my biggest strengths is the mentality, like just staying confident, willing, to go the extra mile, push even harder. If things happen, just brush them to the side, have a short memory, and keep fighting. You know what I mean? I feel like that's one of my biggest strengths in Strongman is just never stop.
That's cool, man. Well, I'm excited for you, Nick, and we'll keep an eye out for you. Follow you on Instagram, see your progress. And I didn't want to say this because I didn't ask you if I could say it, but I understand that you're also going by the Strongman Diva.
Oh, no.
Is that correct?
Did Austin put you up to this?
No, I saw it on Instagram.
Shit.
But I will say this: you're beautiful, and in a world full of bulky, semi-attractive men,
God damn it.
You're at the top, man.
God damn it. Dude, I have the worst strongman nicknames. Travis Ortmeyer, that's Texas Stone Man, he gave me, when he came to Heavy Metal to do the Strongman show, we all went out to eat Brazilian steakhouse. And of course, my competitive side came out and I had to eat more than all of the World's Strongest Man competitors that came. And so I got disgustingly full, and he gave me the nickname Food Baby. So I've got Food Baby. Austin calls me El Manito for my strong hand now, and now Strongman Diva. So
I'm throwing Frankenfist in there, man.
we're not doing great on the Strongman nickname department.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely, bro.
I appreciate you being on the podcast. And we'll do this again, man.
Dude, that'd be sweet. It'd be cool to have Austin on here too at the same time. It would be an entertaining podcast to say the least.
I'll tell you what, when your events are over, maybe towards the end of the year or something, and you guys kind of got them out of the way, let's get back together.
That would be hilarious.
It'll be fun.
All right.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it, Nick.
Yes, sir.
And thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.